for being such an awesome data customer. Yeah, you can dial star 141 hash to redeem your special reward of 500 megabytes and other unique offers just because we're good together. Terms and conditions apply. We did for you everywhere you go. And play with us and enjoy the highest boosted odds. Create your own winning combinations with Betika's Fabum Betty. Yeah, and with only 50 pesos, you can win up to 1,000 CDs of fun virtuals and casino games. Betika, play with the champions. Betika is registered under the Gaming Commission of Ghana and not for persons below the age of 18. Dr. Yaw Osafo is CEO of Medical's Hospital, and he's in the studio today. Hello, who's this fresh brother? You know what I mean? And today, too, you brought out the stunners.
The vaccines.
You accompanied the vaccines. How are you, Doc?
Kwame, I'm very well.
We missed seeing you. And
very, very well.
Awesome.
And today, I'd like to say a special shout out to our new head of pharmacy at the yes, she joined the team. This is her second week.
Oh,
yes,
good Daddy.
75.
Wow, that's a good one.
You know,
happy birthday, Daddy.
Yes.
So you so what? Go ahead and sing us.
Yeah, so happy
this is so unfair. This is so unfair.
Charlie Boucher, Nia Budankadi, is the co-founder of our heritage school.
Okay.
And I went on his wise counsel.
Good stuff.
So that, happy birthday.
Thank you so much for coming through, Doc. We have a get out. Hello, Lexis. I am 55 and an ardent listener of the show. I work with a small eye over the past 2 years. I always use an enema and I'm fine. Okay. I actually heard a dripping sound in the toilet bowl, and to my amazement, I found the entire bowl bright red.
Our listeners, and it's good to be here in person another Wednesday. So, Kwame, unfortunately, this is new. I'm going to put you on the spot, or maybe I should put a Beku or Philip and everybody on the spot by asking this question. How many?
I'm like, damn. Do I have
when you
all
download
that
the
in
hot
there?
bill, we all need to have those, but for some people, they can't even stand to look at their own.
Oh, I look at it and I admire it. Hey!
Not gross. It's life-saving. Kwame, it's absolutely life-saving to look at your poop. So looking at your poop or looking at the toilet paper is actually very, very important. Terminology for this condition is bleeding per rectum. Bleeding per rectum. Or after moving your bowels, whether it's on the toilet paper, it is not normal. It is not. It's what we would refer to as bleeding per rectum.
Okay.
So the rectum is one part of the large intestine, the anus, and then everything comes out. So the rectum is like, if you like, a storehouse. Food has turned into feces, and then everything comes out. So the passage of blood during, we would say, he has bleeding per rectum. But there are a number of different causes which I will go into shortly. Or sometimes black, as in tar black.
Wow.
So, to the blood. Due to the presence of different chemicals at different points, the color might change from bright red, and by the time it comes out, then it looks very dark. Or the different chemicals in different parts of the intestine that will end up giving it a bright blood, because the contact time with the blood and then the juices are it's not that long, bright red blood. But if the bleeding is higher up the gastrointestinal tract or your gut, say for example the stomach, the color sometimes or most times will have changed to black or dark brown, and therefore some individual bleeding. And our listener mentioned finding blood on the toilet paper, his bowels. So there are different ways that blood can appear in your stools. Pain, because that's where we want to go to before we know what we can do about it. So Kwame, let's look at the different patterns. And it drips for a while. So most of the time you'd move your bowel. He's had constipation, which people would take for granted or think, oh, it's normal, let me just go use an enema. That is one pattern. And it is usually the common presentation of a particular toilet paper when cleaning, and it's associated with pain, a lot of pain. And the pain can be with a particular medical condition we call an anal fissure. So a fissure is a tear. So the anus is a very short part of the large bowel, about 4 centimeters. So they really bear down when they go in there to move their bowels. Stools, but typically you have diarrheal stools. So they'll tell you they are running. They are running. Have blood, bright red blood, typically mixed with it. The individuals tend to have abdominal pain, of dysentery, but we would use that umbrella term dysentery, sometimes caused by bacteria, which we can also think about, that usually presents with diarrheal stools. So this time around, the stools are. The fourth pattern is that there is no obvious blood. Go and come. It looks like the desktop sitting on your desk, or the mic, the foam around the mic. It's just tar. They wipe, and then you find this black showing a lot of contrast. So you have a white toilet in the gut most of the time, in the stomach or in the first part of the small intestine. A sore in your stomach or in your small intestine, and sometimes it goes deep. It can erode very deep and hit a blood vessel, and then you bleed. If you vomit the blood, then the vomitus contains a lot of blood, but if it comes down, then very, very lengthy. When we unwind it, very, very lengthy. So as it's going down, it is mixing with the different juices, and there are a lot of juices coming at different lengths of the small intestine, and by the time the blood comes out, a lot of chemical reactions would have happened, and then it gets the sensation to move their bowels. So they feel like moving their bowels, but they go on blood. The bleeding is typically heavy. Sometimes people feel a bit lightheaded. Some actually pass out because yes, you may pass out, and then it's difficult for somebody to find you, because the door has been locked. Unless particular disease where you have these small balloons. Maybe I'll go into much details at next week or next 2 weeks, when I pick some of the more common, the rectum in particular, and they tend to bleed. So when the bleeding is very, very heavy, as the most likely cause. Then lastly, the blood comes out before the stools. So you go and sit on it, you bear down, you put the stools follow. Typically, this happens in piles, hemorrhoids, piles. So piles would have two main presentations. Piles could also be piles.
Yes,
so Kwame, these are the 6 different patterns.
Charlie, what? Eddie, alcohol.
This week I spared them too for the spotless goods. I'm holding on to the drinks for now.
Something.
This week I'm not going to mention any alcohol.
Something.
It's also cold storage. The beer chill.
Oh, Charlie.
The bubra come and catch us.
I know, right?
Right. So what are different pathologies with different causes? So if we talk about hemorrhoids, for example, which most people would, so it could be cancer, for example. I looked, and it turned out that it was a cancerous growth and an extent for the individual. So it could be cancer, which we wouldn't know. If you ask me what the cause of cancer of the, not clear in our minds the exact cause. But then we believe that things like constipation play a very important. It leads to you forming cushions, the veins in the lower part of your piles. Same thing with what we call the diverticular disease, which can be also another condition. Little fiber in their diet. They drink very little water. So it could be a dietary reason why you are constipated, and you've been constipated for us. So this gentleman who sent us this message, 55 years, he's in great state of health, medical. Well, is it a functional constipation, dietary one, or is it because they have a growth in there, which can also be cancerous? Dysentery, can do that, and then some other bacteria, Shigella and all of that. So it can give you food choices, in terms of where you buy your food. You have to be careful about sanitation.
Oh, Mijidipa.
Okay. So let's all encourage that it becomes a cleaner, so that the food but we will look for the cause before we are the name, the pathology involved. Then we
As Lexis, kindly ask doctor for me. It takes 4 days to pass stool.
Wow.
And I want to know if it's
consistency of the stools. So are the stools hard, or they're soft, or normal? It's like stools. Then we can say you're constipated. Then you move your bowel at least once. That's for most people. But moving your bowels every 4 days. I wouldn't say they are present now.
Doma 1 to 8.
So some people kept it. I know this friend of mine, he's in the UK, I'm sure he's listening right now. He'll keep it and go. Most likely your stools will then become hard. Then as you pass very hard stools, you increase the pressure. The tear that I talk about.
Yeah.
The tear. Some people have very hard stools. By the time they pass, they're excruciatingly painful. So that type of regularity with moving your bowels.
If he sends a message that really is somewhat exactly what we are discussing. It says, Lexis, I sometimes feel pains in my anus.
In there, which we'll call a fissure, an anal fissure. So if you've been passing very hard stools, you can actually keep pain. Sometimes I remember the last person we treated was a 21-year-old female, and when she wept into the too much pain, then I knew exactly what was wrong. So the pain he has there, if I'm to hazard and then do an examination to be able to nail the diagnosis, but he needs for
let people once a while. Sometimes after once or 3 times a whole year, no pains accompanied. I think that people really need, maybe you might want to wrap up and then maybe we would have a second part to this conversation.
So we're going to do a part 2.
It's important.
So in the part 2, I'm going to pick the common ones and with bleeding. All right, so we'll do a part 2 next week. So the number is 0501 477.
Is in Medina Firestone.
Yeah.
Just behind the SG Bank. And Mampo Ekwapim.
Yes.
Team will see to you very comfortably in a very cozy environment as well.
Absolutely.
So, Doc, thank you so much for this education. Do it. Look at it.
Look at it.
Look at what you have done. Look at your certificate.
Congratulate yourself.
Congratulations. Into we, yeah.